It may be your gut, not your thoughts, that is controlling your anxiety, your sense of unease, and your mental state each day. If you want to find true peace, you may need to look deeper into a place few people ever consider. My name is Ethan Marshall. I am a 60-year-old physician from the United States, and I have spent more than 30 years working in the field of health. I want to begin with a truth that shocks many people. A great deal of the anxiety, sadness, and unease you carry every day does not originate in your mind, but begins in your gut. It may sound hard to believe, but if you have ever felt a nervous flutter in your stomach when anxious, or a subtle intestinal cramp when deeply sad, your body has been telling you the truth for a very long time. Before we go any further, if topics like these resonate with you, please subscribe to the channel, like, and share this video. Your support gives my team and me the motivation to continue creating content that is deep, honest, and truly valuable for your long-term health. Now, I would like you to recall a very ordinary moment. Have you ever been sitting quietly with nothing clearly wrong, yet still felt heavy, restless, as if something was not quite right inside? Many of my patients, especially those between the ages of 50 and 70, have told me they can no longer put a name to their emotions. They are not exactly sad and not truly worried, yet there is a persistent sense of unease in their bodies. What is interesting is that when I ask them about their sleep, their digestion, or the last time they felt light and comfortable in their abdomen, many fall silent. Some say it has been years since they last felt ease in their gut. This offers us an important clue. Emotions are not only products of thoughts or life circumstances, but also direct reflections of the body's internal biological state. The gut does not merely digest food. It reacts to, records, and holds stress in its own unique way. When the digestive system is forced to operate under conditions of stagnation, chronic low-grade inflammation, or overload, the body sends out signals of discomfort even before the mind understands what is happening. This is why many people try positive thinking, reading, or meditation, yet still do not feel better. They are searching for answers in the head, while the problem lies below. I do not say this to make you anxious, but to open a new, more humane and realistic perspective on your own emotions. So ask yourself, where does the unease you carry truly come from? A, from your thoughts and mental pressures? Or B, from the quiet signals your body, especially your gut, sends you every day? Please leave a comment with A or B. I would truly like to read your answer. The enteric nervous system, often referred to as the second brain, is a real biological structure that exists independently and operates continuously within the walls of the digestive tract. Unlike the traditional belief that all commands originate from the central brain, modern science shows that the gut contains a dense neural network with hundreds of millions of nerve cells, extending from the esophagus to the colon. In terms of sheer numbers, this system rivals, and in some respects exceeds, the spinal cord, and it is complex enough to regulate many functions without direct instructions from the brain. It controls intestinal movement, regulates digestive secretions, and responds to food, bacteria, and the internal environment of the body. More importantly, the enteric nervous system can receive, process, and transmit signals based on the gut's condition at any given moment. For this reason, it is not merely a passive digestive component, but a sophisticated sensory center that continuously evaluates whether the internal environment is balanced or under threat. When the gut is healthy, Open and relatively free of inflammation, the enteric nervous system operates in a stable mode, sending steady and harmonious signals. By contrast, when the gut is under prolonged stress from stagnation, chronic low-grade inflammation, or microbial imbalance, this neural network shifts into an alert state. These signals are not thoughts or emotions in the psychological sense, but biological impulses conveying information about internal unsafety. Notably, the enteric nervous system does not function through language or concepts, but through pure physiological sensation. It responds to the tension of the intestinal walls, the presence of accumulated waste, and chemical changes within the digestive environment. These reactions occur quietly and continuously, often preceding any clear manifestation in conscious awareness. As a result, a person may not yet recognize that something is wrong, but the body already knows and has begun adjusting. In this context, the concept of a second brain is not metaphorical, but physiological reality. There exists a second neural center capable of sensing and responding independently. It does not replace the central brain, but serves as a foundational source of raw data about the body's internal state. When this data reflects stress, disruption, or overload, the entire nervous system is affected. Conversely, when the enteric nervous system operates in a clean, low-burden environment with a natural rhythm, it becomes a stable source of signals that help maintain overall nervous system balance. This biological foundation explains why the gut is considered a deep, quiet sensory center with long-lasting influence on human mental states. The relationship between the gut and the brain is not one-directional, but a continuous two-way communication system that is subtle, complex, and deeply influential on emotional states. Within this system, the gut does not merely receive commands from the brain. It actively sends information back through multiple biological pathways. Neural signals, chemical messengers, and physiological responses work together to reflect the actual condition of the digestive tract. When the gut enters a state of prolonged low-grade inflammation, blockage from accumulated waste, or internal imbalance, the signals transmitted to the brain carry a warning quality. These signals do not appear as sharp, acute pain, but rather as vague, persistent sensations that are difficult to define. When the brain receives this stream of information over time, it adjusts the activity of the central nervous system toward a defensive mode. This defensive state manifests externally as chronic and prolonged tension, unexplained anxiety, restlessness, unease, or reduced mental energy. It is important to emphasize that in many cases, negative emotions do not begin with thoughts or external events, but with biological signals arising from within the body. When the gut is inflamed or congested, the internal environment becomes unstable, forcing the nervous system to maintain a heightened level of vigilance. If sustained, this vigilance alters the body's overall biological rhythm, including sleep, concentration, and emotional stability. People may fail to recognize this direct connection because the brain tends to search for causes in psychological factors or life circumstances. However, at a physiological level, the brain is simply responding to continuous signals sent from the gut. When those signals convey unsafety, the central nervous system prioritizes defensive reactions over relaxation and balance. Conversely, when the gut environment becomes stable, less inflamed, and less burdened, the signals sent to the brain become neutral and regulatory. The brain is then no longer locked in a prolonged alert state, allowing the nervous system to gradually shift toward greater stability. Emotions consequently become less volatile, and mood is less dominated by vague, unexplained unease. This mechanism explains why, in real life, many people only notice emotional improvement after their digestive condition improves, even without consciously addressing psychological factors. This does not deny the role of thought or subjective emotion, but demonstrates that the biological foundation of emotion plays a decisive role in sustaining long-term mental states. In this context, the gut is not merely a digestive organ, but a critical starting point for a cascade of biological responses that lead either to anxiety and low mood or to emotional stability, depending on how it is functioning. When the gut reaches a state of openness and stability, the entire physiological system related to emotion begins to operate differently. Under conditions of low inflammation, minimal stagnation, and natural rhythm, the internal digestive environment becomes more predictable and safer for the nervous system. Signals sent to the brain no longer carry warnings or defensive messages, but shift toward neutral and regulatory states. The brain, which constantly responds to incoming biological data, gradually lowers its baseline level of alertness. This reduction in alertness does not occur suddenly, but develops step by step, alongside the body's growing sense of internal lightness and stability. In this context, mental states begin to change naturally, without the need for direct intervention at the level of thoughts or emotions. Many real-world observations show that when digestion becomes regular, the central nervous system's ability to regulate emotions improves noticeably. Anxiety responses become less intense, emotional fluctuations decrease in frequency and amplitude, and a sense of calm appears more often in daily life. This is not the result of controlling emotions, but a biological outcome of a stable physiological foundation. When the gut is no longer forced to handle overload or chronic low-grade inflammation, the body no longer needs to maintain a defensive state. Biological energy is redistributed toward restoration and regulation, rather than constant internal stress response. Many natural healing traditions emphasize that easing the burden on the gut is the first step in improving mental well-being. When the digestive environment improves, the enteric nervous system operates more harmoniously, supporting the central nervous system and maintaining stability. In practice, many people only begin to notice changes in mood after digestion becomes regular. Abdominal heaviness diminishes, and the body feels more open from within. These changes are often quiet but lasting, unlike fast-acting interventions with short-lived effects. In a healthy gut state, biological signals sent to the brain are consistent and gentle, allowing the brain to maintain a more stable biological rhythm. Sleep deepens, concentration improves, and emotions become less easily triggered by minor factors. This demonstrates that mental stability is not a goal separate from the body, but a natural result of a physiological system that is properly cared for. In this case, the gut functions as a silent foundation, which when strengthened, supports the entire mental state in a durable and long-term way. The conclusion of this entire line of reasoning leads to a foundational approach to emotional and mental health. Rather than continuing to view the mind as a separate entity that must be adjusted primarily through willpower, thought, or psychological techniques, the perspective proposed here places emphasis on the biological foundation of mental states. Inner peace is not the result of constantly controlling or forcing emotions, but the natural outcome of a physiological system restored to balance. Within that system, the gut plays a central role as a quiet yet decisive foundation. When the internal gut environment is stable, minimally inflamed, free of stagnation, and operating in harmony, the biological signals sent to the central nervous system become consistent and gentle. The brain, no longer required to process prolonged warning signals, gradually exits its baseline defensive state. This allows the entire nervous system to shift into regulation and recovery, creating conditions for emotional stability that are natural and sustainable. This approach is especially meaningful in midlife and later years, when the body has accumulated many years of physiological and environmental stress. At this stage, focusing solely on changing thoughts while ignoring the biological foundation often yields limited results. By contrast, when care is directed appropriately toward the digestive system, many mental states previously labeled as psychological problems may gradually self-correct. This does not dismiss the role of awareness or subjective emotion, but places them in proper context, as surface expressions of a deeper system shaped by physiology over time. The core message of this approach lies in a shift of perspective. Instead of striving to achieve peace through direct mental effort, peace is built from within the body. Caring for the gut is not merely about improving digestion or physical health, but about investing in the foundation of emotional life. When that foundation is strong, mental stability is no longer something to chase, but a natural state of both body and mind. This is not a quick fix, but a sustainable path that respects biological principles and the natural rhythms of the human system. In this context, the gut is no longer viewed as a secondary organ, but as an essential pillar in maintaining quality of life, inner calm, and long-term mental health. Throughout the entire discussion, one central idea becomes clear. Human emotions and mental states do not exist separately from the body, but are formed upon a very concrete biological foundation. The gut, with its independent nervous system and two-way communication with the brain, acts as a quiet sensory center with long-term influence. When the internal gut environment becomes inflamed, congested, or overloaded, biological signals sent to the brain carry warnings that keep the nervous system in a prolonged defensive state. Conversely, when the gut is restored to openness and stability, signals become regulatory, allowing the brain and emotions to function in balance. From this perspective, inner peace is not something achieved through force of will or thought control, but a natural outcome of proper physiological care. Caring for the gut is therefore not only about digestion, but about laying the foundation for quality of life, inner calm, and long-term emotional stability, especially in midlife and beyond. One important lesson that can be drawn is that sustainable changes in mental state must begin with factors deeper and more fundamental than thought alone. Rather than trying to regulate emotions solely from the outside, individuals can adopt a more practical approach by observing and improving digestion, simplifying eating habits, reducing bodily burden, and respecting natural biological rhythms. When the physiological foundation improves, emotions often recalibrate on their own in a gentler and more stable way. In your view, when anxiety or persistent unease arises, what should be addressed first? The mental state or the body's internal condition? I sincerely invite you to share your perspective respectfully in the comments. If you are interested in in-depth content on health and natural healing, please fill out the form in the description to receive a Healing Health ebook as a gift. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel, like, and share this video to support the continued creation of valuable and practical content.